how like what's the best way to engage others, right? So for example, it's not unusual for a nonprofit to have, a staff team that's going to lead a project on their side and work day to day with a consultant, like a design consultant, but then to have a wider range of partners on the team and sort of adjacent to the team who have, input on the project. And I'm thinking here of like executive directors, or in larger nonprofits, communication directors, or sometimes it's going to be board members or funders. For those folks, how do you sort of identify who's important to loop in and the appropriate roles for each of them, and then sort of how do you set the expectations for them?
hmm Right. That's a good question. We've had experiences where we've worked successfully with a person at an organization. We get, pretty far down a particular path with a project, and all of a sudden another person comes in either with a different idea as to what that project was supposed to look like or how it was supposed to be communicated, and that can tend to, really stall a project. So one of the first questions, we'd like to ask is, who's going to be involved in the process and who are the decision makers? Many times, we work with communications directors or program managers, marketing, marketing heads of marketing, groups like that, that tend to understand their sort of the internal chain of command. But it's also important for them to understand, who's going to be involved in making decisions on the project. Is the president of the organization going to take a look, and then that will help to determine as to when they should be brought into um, into a project. If and it also sort of depends on the relationship between the person who's starting the project or reaching out to us, and then and the people that they're going to eventually need, or they're going to need to get buy-in from. So we like to ask that question pretty early on in the process, because we want to make sure that all stakeholders and people that are going to be making decisions on design aesthetics, on messaging, get their opinions in pretty early, so we can make sure that we're on the right track, from the beginning. That's a great question.
Okay, great. So what I'm hearing is you should cast the net as wide as you think you could possibly cast it, right? And figure out who really does want to say, and you should do that early in the process. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it also, while opening it up to to the different decision makers, it's important to say that some groups and some projects require user groups, so whether they're for testing purposes or sort of asking the members of an organization sort of what they think is important to them. I think that's very valuable, and that can even happen before a project gets started. So making sure that everybody's involved, who needs to be involved in the creative process. If there are too many people involved in that creative part, it can also have an adverse effect as well. You know, Sending up designs to a website for members to sort of pick and give ideas as to why they like certain ones can be really valuable, as long as that's built into the project. So in most cases, we'll work with a manager, a program manager, a director who specifically, and then as other people are identified who are going to be involved in the project, the more we can involve them, the better, for efficiency and making sure that we're on the right track all the time.
Got it. So the other part then is to plan it out so there aren't any surprise reviewers halfway through the
It,
project.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, that makes